All right, cool. I'm going to be really quick because this isn't a huge topic. We want to go over to team night. Actually, it's not a complicated topic. So, we're going to talk about something called the 10 preparations and something called the whiteboard. What is it? So, first we'll start with the 10 preparations. When I was a rookie, what would happen was, Justin had trained me to do all these things the night before in my office and make sure that they were prepped for the next day. And then invariably, whenever he would come to visit, it was like I had forgotten one of them. Do you know what I mean? So he's come to visit, and then he's like, yeah, everything looks fine. And then there was like one thing I forgot, like prepping the impact, for instance, and he would chew me out. So eventually, we came up with a system whereby we would have everything covered, so that the next day you can focus on what you're supposed to focus on. And those are called the 10 preparations. So these are 10 things you need to have done every single night. You don't want to ever go to sleep without having these sorted, okay? And if you're this prepared, what it's going to allow you to do is not have a day where you're running around like crazy because you didn't prepare the night before. So probably you guys have seen those days in your office. Hopefully you never have, but I'm sure you have, where maybe the maps didn't get cut last night, or maybe the car rides weren't done, right? And so you spend all morning running around trying to figure out what you should have done last night, right? Yeah. Yeah? No one? Everybody's perfect at this. Row hands like I've got it all the time, right? Okay, so first one is car rides. I know James is going to talk a little bit tomorrow about how to set these up, but I want to know who's going with who, how many cars I have, where they're going. That's got to be set up. 2 is meetings. What meetings do we have in the morning?
Leaders in the morning.
Yeah, so we have leaders, and what else?
Morning meeting.
Morning meeting. Okay. Why do you want to have these set up the night before?
Because you would have prepped them from the results of the settler.
Yes, so what we don't want is a situation where you walk in the morning and then it's like 5 minutes before the meeting, you're like, oh, what should I run? Well, I haven't run that meeting in a while. You want your morning meeting and your leaders meeting to be purposeful for a reason, right? That's based on whatever happened yesterday or whatever the situation in your office is. So if the sales are low, maybe run a sales meeting. If you have a bunch of new people, maybe run something like that explains a bigger picture of the company. If you're not closing observations, maybe you run something that explains the business from the client's point of view so that you can give your leaders confidence. But it shouldn't just be random. Same thing with leaders meetings. Shouldn't just be whatever it is. It should be something that I have planned. It should be delivered. Yes?
Cheers.
All right, so that's meetings. 3. The other reason you should do this in the or at night is because when you're getting ready in the morning, when you're in the shower, when you're getting ready to go in, this stuff's going to go through your head. Does that make sense? So the same reason, like we prepared all these topics before, all the speakers today knew what they were speaking on a while back so that they could start to prepare mentally for it and they get in this up. Does that make sense? Which brings me to the next one, which is impacts. This has got to be prepared the night before because who's doing the impacts? It's going to be a leader, it's going to be an assistant manager, it's going to be somebody who doesn't have a ton of public speaking experience. So the last thing that you'd ever want to throw on them is a situation where it's atmosphere, oh, it's time for the impact, oh my gosh, hey, Hannah, can you run an impact real quick? Cheers? Cheers. All right, impact. Next one is retrains. Anybody ever had a situation where a retrain walked in and there was nobody to retrain him?
Yep.
Yeah? Why is this negative?
Because they feel left out.
Have any of you guys anybody ever come up to you, hey man, can you retrain this guy in the morning?
Yeah.
Were you excited about that? Or was you kind of like, God damn it, I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't mentally prepared for that. It's not really what I want to do. And so it's not good for the leaders. One, it's not good. Like if I gotta have a retrain today, I need to be prepared for that same thing. In the morning, I need to be going through it in my head. I'm prepared for what I'm going to go through in an atmosphere, all those things. And if I'm going to have an effective retrain, I need to know the background of the person, where they're from, what they were doing, what they didn't learn yesterday, what they did learn yesterday. There needs to be a whole conversation that happens before I ever take out a guy that I'm going to retrain, so I know where he's at, where he's not at, and I've talked to his trainer, and I know what he needs to work on. Make sense? Yeah. It's also really bad for the retrain to see that. So usually how this goes when we see it, unfortunately, is Scott has a retrain, he didn't, or I have a retrain, and I didn't, set it up, so he comes in the morning, I'm like, oh, where's he going to go? hey buddy, hold on, I'm gonna figure out where you're supposed to go. Then I run over to Scott, hey Scott, can you retrain my guy? And Scott's like, no, blah 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 blah, right? And then I go over, I'm like, hey Ryan, can you retrain my guy? No man, can't do it. So this retrain's now seeing what? Nobody wants to train me, right? This sucks. I'm no good. Nobody wants to spend any time with me, right? Yeah, and then finally, I go to Rohan. Rohan's like, all right, Christoph, I'll do it. And so then it gets really awkward because I'm introducing him. I'm like, here's Rohan. He's a top trainer in the office, and you're really fortunate. He's thinking, this is bullshit. He's not a top. He's a third choice, right? He's like, I just saw what you did, right? So this isn't really setting up Rohan for success. It's not setting up the retrain for success. So I want to set up the retrains the night before. Next point is conversations. I need to write out what conversations I'm going to have the next day. If you're, got a photographic memory or something, maybe you can memorize all this stuff. But most people, and for sure the people that you're going to be training in the future, won't be able to memorize everything. So which conversations am I looking to have? Well, one is people that were late today or absent today. When you get to run a big office, 60, 70 people, or even 30, 40 people, it's too many people for one person to keep up with, right? So if somebody comes in late, maybe you noticed, but by the next day you forgot who that was. Does it make sense? Or you forgot about it altogether. Or if somebody's not there, well, out of 60 people, you're like, you didn't really notice them gone. So we end up missing these conversations altogether, and then you end up with an atmosphere and a mentality in your office where it's okay to miss days. Does it make sense? Or it's okay to be late because you never get caught. So one thing I do when I'm in atmosphere, I'm always going to have a bubble chart, and I just go through the bubble chart and I highlight everybody who's in, or then I highlight people who are late. And then at night when we're going through these, I write down, okay, I got to talk to Kermit tomorrow because he was late today, and I got to pull him aside, and that's a conversation I need to have. The other two conversations I want to have are over and under conversations. So if somebody did really well yesterday or today, I want to be sure that at some point in the day I give them recognition. Maybe I mention them in my morning meeting. Better than they usually do, better than I expected them to do, right? I want to make sure I'm high-fiving them in an atmosphere. Hey man, you crushed it yesterday, or we're going to do it again today. I also want to be asking them, hey, man, you usually do like 6. Today you did, yesterday you did 20. What was different? Can we teach it out? Like what was the difference? So I can reaffirm this. And then the other one is the guy who usually rings the bell, or the guy that I expected to go here and he does this. I need to probably just pull him aside at some point. Hey, just want to make sure like everything okay? How's family? All that, okay? What happened yesterday? Then how do we fix it? What's the plan for today? So that people know that I'm noticing what's going on. I'm noticing the production log. I'm noticing what their situation is. And again, I don't want a culture where someone can just not ring the bell and it goes unnoticed, because then they just won't ring the bell. Got it?
Yeah.
All right, after conversations, we have maps or stores. Okay? When I'm in the morning with the guys, the only thing I want to be focused on are things that are going to raise the average, and conversations individually with people. So maps is not one of these things, and it's a complete mess when they aren't done the night before. Now, both with car rides and retrains and maps, are those going to change in the morning depending on who shows up and who doesn't? Sure. You'll have to make game day changes. That's not a big deal though. If I've got 10 car rides and, because of 3 people not showing up, I got to shuffle around a few things, that's fine. That's going to take 5 minutes. Whereas if I got to do the whole thing from scratch in the morning, I end up missing all atmosphere altogether. So that's maps. Next is road trips. As in, where are they going? Who's on them? Who's leading them? Who's signed up? Who hasn't? Especially with Credico, you need to do this like really, really far ahead of time. Usually they need the list Monday for the next week, right? So this is something I want to be checking on. So once I have the list of who's going, which I'll need Monday so I can send my road trip request form, then I've got to sort everything else out, okay? And by Wednesday night at the latest, that's the time when I want to have everything figured out. Where we're going, how we're getting there, cars rented if we need to rent cars, accommodation once they get there, where are they staying? All that's prepared by Wednesday, so that we're not freaking out Friday night, oh shit, we need a road trip and got no place to send them. Next up is opportunity meeting. Have we run one yet? Do we need to run one? You're going to want to run an opportunity meeting every week for the new guys. We never want to let a guy go into a weekend without having seen an opportunity meeting because it's our biggest bullet that we have. It's the whole reason to do the business. But I want to keep an eye on this because if I have 4 sharp guys start on Monday, when am I going to run an opportunity meeting?
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday or Tuesday. I'm not going to wait until Saturday because maybe that 4 is now down to 2 because they didn't see the bullets. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. Make sure I've got my opportunity meetings. 9 is announcements. Okay, cool shit that's going on. New owners that opened up and are crushing it. Any events coming up. I want to have all that written out and ready to go. This is also the noise. So the production. So that when it's time for me to run the morning meeting, I just grab the sheet. Okay, cool. Here's all my noise. Here's the announcements. We're ready to go. And number 10, we didn't know what to call this, so we gave it a name. We call it the lunchbox. It's just all the administrative stuff that you have to have prepared for your campaign. So on Xfinity, for instance, that would be, do we have the stands ready to go over here? Assigned to a store number. They'll have the iPad set up and ready to go. You know, for other campaigns, you know, I know on charity sometimes you got to wear these like jacket-looking things with the charity's name on it. So, do we have in a corner set up? Okay, there's each little jacket, and on top of that is their ID badge. Just so we have an area set up. Okay, we're ready to go. So that when the morning meeting's over, we're not running around like crazy trying to figure out, oh, where's my thing? Where's my other thing? Where's my map? And where's this? It's all set, ready to go. I got my map, got my car ride, got my tablet. Any questions about these? No. Cool. Pretty self-explanatory? Yeah. You guys are like, we're already doing this stuff. No new info, right? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, next up. Something we like to call the whiteboard. This is a way to analyze your business on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And the reason that we started doing this, we had just opened up Italy, and what I was finding is that when I was talking to you know, our offices and our managers in England, I was spending tons and tons and tons of time talking to these offices, but it wasn't really apparent like what the problem was. Do you know what I mean? So I talked to a guy for an hour a day or 2 hours a day, going through trying to figure out what's wrong, what's holding him back, why isn't he running 25 guys, where is he stuck? And a lot of times it's really difficult for you to see your own problems. Does it make sense? Like even with yourself, right? It's much easier for you to like see your girlfriend's problems than it is for you to see your problems, right? Because you're perfect, right? She's not, right? So this is a way where we could, you know, just take an objective look. Hey, what's going on in the business? What happened today and what I need to work on. And based on this and the production log is what I use to figure out what's the morning meeting going to be for the next day, what's the leaders meeting going to be for the next day.
So, sorry, just sorry.
Yeah,
what's
sure.
going on in the business, and then I've just missed the last 2 minutes. So it's a whiteboard is that to see what's going on in the business, how you
yeah,
progress.
it's a way to objectively analyze what happened today in my company or what happened last week in my company, and by looking at it, I can identify objectively, scientifically, which areas of the pipeline or which areas of my business are broken or weak, so that it's not a guessing game anymore. And so when I'm thinking about my leaders meeting, or I'm thinking about my morning meeting, or I'm thinking about the impact, or I'm thinking about what I need to do with the admins, I'm looking at this because it's objective, and it's going to tell me what I need to work on. And it takes, you know, the guesswork out of running an office. You know, for a long time before we had this, we just worked harder if things weren't there. Do you know what I mean? But we, you know, sometimes we had these huge blind spots that you wouldn't necessarily catch, and that could go on for weeks and weeks and weeks before you realize, oh my gosh, the problem is, you know, the leaders don't know how to interview, or oh my gosh, the problem's the admin. So this is what it shows. So there's some basics here. All right. So first is hits. How many hits am I getting? From this, I think usable hits. Okay. So how did my administrator? You know, how many applicants did she send into applicant stream today? Of the hits that we got last night, how many were usable? Especially if you're in a smaller market, this is going to be super, super important. And a lot of times what we see is that owners, you know, it's kind of like you things are going well, and you don't know that there's a problem, but your hits have gone from 100 a day to 80 a day to 60 a day, but your admin doesn't want to disappoint you, so she's just been working harder and trying to make up for it until it gets to the point where you're down to like 20 hits a day, and it's a code red emergency, and that's when you find out. Does it make sense? If you're recording it every day, you're going to be able to see the fluctuation and know where to go. So from my hits, prelims, booked. Okay, this is really simple. How many prelims is my administrator booking every day? On this, you want to have a set number per day. Set number per day. It shouldn't be like a, you know, if I ask you when you're running an office, hey, what's your admin's target per day? The answer shouldn't be, oh, well, just as many as she can. Do you know what I mean? We have a bell. They need a bell. And the way that I pay my administrators now is they have like a base of 400, and then if they hit the targets that we set up for them for the week, then they get an extra 200. So a third of their income is based on are they hitting their targets or not, which is really exciting, works well because they're not just working until 5 o'clock and going home. They're working until 8 o'clock. That's what it takes to hit their goals. Or you know, if they hit them all by 3 o'clock, they can shoot. But I want a specific target that I can look at, and so I can go back across the week and I can say, okay, my admin hit her target every day or no day, so we need a new admin or whatever the situation is. Now, prelims showed. How many did we book? How many did we show? And there's a percentage. What percentage do we want this to be?
90 plus.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I'd like her to get above 80%. That'd be phenomenal. I can't live with less than 60% though. Okay. And again, maybe this fluctuates a little bit depending on your market in terms of how many hits are you getting. You know, if I'm in a market where I'm only getting 30 hits a day, well then yeah, we need 80, 90%. Otherwise, we're not going to have enough recruitment. If I'm in a market where I'm getting 500 a day or 1,000 a day, well, my retention might not be as important because we can burn through a lot of people, and the ones that do show up even with bad retention still gives us enough recruitment. Does that make sense? Well, if I've got an admin below 60%, I mean, we've got to really, that's when I've got to sit down with her, hey, this doesn't work. Explain the pipeline again, explain that I've got to have X amount of recruitment or I can't provide, you know, an opportunity, make a plan to fix it, and address it. All right, and then we have OBS booked. OBS showed. Percentage.
Are you including reschedules in that, or do you just move that along?
No, if I have, all right, so today's Wednesday, right? So whatever I have scheduled for Thursday.
Okay.
Let's say I have 10 scheduled for Thursday. That's what I have scheduled. That's how many is booked.
Sure.
That's how many is booked. If I come in the morning and 2 of them reschedule, I'm already down 20%.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if so we have 10 booked in. We went through this earlier. If I have 10 booked in, what's the minimum that I need to show? 9, right? And what do I want ideally?
12.
12. Yeah. 13, 15, whatever. Right? More than 10 ideally. That means we're really crushing it. Any questions so far on this? No? Okay. So this is my percentage. That's up to me. In terms of, you know, how many ops do we need? We need an op for every leader in town. For sure, we need an op for every leader that rings up. That's my #1 job as the owner. Now I have potential new start and actual new start. And again, when I'm doing my 10 preps, at the end of the night, this is something I'll know. Okay, we have 3 guys that are expected to be in on their first year reaching. Oh, we forgot one.
Finals.
Finals, yeah, sorry. Okay, so finals, how many do we do? Go up here. Okay. So if I have 10 obs booked, and let's say I have 10 obs showed, how many finals do I want to expect to do?
8.
8 would be great.
50%.
Yes. Anything lower than 50%, my rule, if I have lower than 50%, I run leaders meetings on observations every day until we're above 50%. But it's got to be a minimum of 50% across the space of a week. Okay? Now,
Christoph, is that you have to actually sit and do the final, or is that just guys that have brought back?
guys that are brought back.
Okay. So if you decide
got-
you're
I mean,
not going to
guys-
sit down with them, like what Justin was talking about, if you decide you're not going to sit down with them,
I would still count that as a final because he came back. Because what I'm trying to measure here is how good are my leaders at observations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If they're bringing back half, that's the minimum I can live with. In a really great office where your leaders really know what's going on, you can have that 70, 80%. I've never really seen it consistently higher than 80%. So then from finals, I get how many potential people should be starting and how many actually started. The percentage I'm looking for here is 3 out of 5. So if I have 5 people that I did their final, I expect them to show up tomorrow, I can't live with any less than 3. Okay? What's going on if it's less than 3? If it's less than 3, that means
No rehash call?
it means either I need to work on my final interview, right? All the stuff Justin went over earlier, or my leaders need to work on their observation. Now, in the scenario that I have, my leaders are bringing back over 50% of their observations, so I think things are good, and I think the leaders know how to do an observation. But then I'm less than this. If I'm 1 for 5 or I'm 2 for 5. What's happening there most of the time is the leaders are bringing back the observation, but they're not covering everything with it. So the leaders are bringing back the observation, but they never went over what do we do when it rains. They never went over what are the hours. They never really went over what happens if you do no sales. They never went over, your wife's not going to let you do this. All those conversations, and so that person's now getting home at night, is super motivated, super excited, is ready to go, and then they come and they talk to their mom, and then their mom says, oh, what about when it rains, or oh, what about if you do no sales, or oh my gosh, what time did you start today? You started at 11, what time is it now? So, oh my gosh, you worked 10 hours today, that was on an interview, what time are you going in tomorrow? And so they're going in, the parents are hitting them on the hours, and so now the person feels like, oh shit, I just kind of got impulse or scammed, or they made it sound really great, but really they didn't bring up all these things, and that can be what's happening. So 3rd round interview, or that. Any questions there? All right, next up we have guys in, and then we have guys selling. And that next one, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then I want to know, the production and what's my average. And lately, what I've been doing since we started to do a lot of road trips, I'm looking at what's my average in town and also what's my average on a road trip. Because sometimes you can look at the average, if you don't separate it out, you can look at that and say, oh, it looks great, we've got a great average, but really what it is your road trips are doing amazing and your in town's doing awful, and you don't fix that situation. Or your road trips are doing the same as your in town, which shouldn't be the case either.
What's the right swing there? What should you expect?
On Xfinity, for instance, we want the leaders to be doing over 30 services a week. Leadership qualifications. I mean, you want your leaders requalifying for leadership every week.
Sorry, when you were talking about
or if you're Nina, then you want them to do double. What's up?
When you talk about guys in and guys selling, so the amount of people you actually have in that day, and then next to that, the amount of people you have selling, and that was 1 and 1.
Yeah, so if I have, 20 guys selling, but then I have 5 people on a retrain, then I want to count the 20 guys to selling in order to calculate the average. Okay? So if we have 20 guys selling and we did 20 customers, then that's a 1 average, right? I don't do service divided by 25. Because the retrains are part of that, part of a guy selling.
What should the road trip average be in comparison to in town?
Higher.
As long as it's higher, you don't care?
I want it to be significantly higher. Yeah. I mean, because why is a guy going to go on a road trip? Right? There's the reason to go on a road trip other than it's fun and the development reasons. You want to be able to say, guys on a road trip are making, I mean, ideally they're making double what they're making in town. For sure, they need to make at least what they're spending extra on hotel.
Yeah.
Which can be quite a bit, but I want, ideally double. If a guy's making 500 a week in town, he should be making over 1,000 a week out. Because that way he pays his expenses plus banks a lot more. Other things you can do on this, you can break that down into what's your leader's average and what's your account executive average. Again, sometimes if you don't look at the whole picture, that can skew your average. Maybe you have a situation where your leaders have a really high average, but everybody else has a terrible average, and you keep losing guys, and you can't figure out why. Well, it's because the new guys aren't making money, but the leaders are. Does that make sense? So we need to work on retraining. All right, so that's the average. Below that, we've got promotions to leadership. The reason that we put this in after a while is because we look at whiteboards that seem great and they had all the right numbers and everything looked phenomenal. And the owner's making money, but no one's getting promoted to management, and there was no development of the people. It was just this constant, revolving door. And that shows you that there's development issues that the owner needs to be working on, spending time with people, going through. I mean, I don't want a week to ever go by where we don't have at least one person promoted to leadership. In your killer offices, you'll have a person every day or every other day. I mean, when you guys were working here with Justin, how many leadership promotions do you have?
Every week?
A lot.
A few a week, almost every day.
Yeah, one a day.
Almost every day, right? So that would be like your ideal scenario, that you have people starting every day and promotion leadership every day. But for sure, if I look at my whole week and nobody got promoted in leadership, it's like, well, what are we doing? You know, we really need to take a look at what are we doing from when a person starts to where they quit. Okay, next is, you can break it down on here in this example. We've figured out how much profit that's going to be for the rep, how much profit it's going to be for the owner. For those of you guys who get paid on installations, we added this in because, again, things could look really, really great. It looks like you're making all this money, and then you get the pay report and everybody's broke because we weren't paying attention to how many installs we had scheduled for that day. That's just as important, if not more important, than how many sales we did that day.
Again, are we including retrains in this?
Well, installs scheduled, that's just for the company, so that's install scheduled. So how many?
Sorry, the profit,
Yeah.
rep profits, I mean, excuse me.
Oh, yeah, for that, you would just take the total number of services that you did, and then what's the owner stroke on that, and then what's the rep stroke on that. Make sense? So you can have an idea of how much money your leaders are generating, or your reps are generating, and how much money you generate for yourself.
Are you doing gross there, or are you looking at kind of the average for installs as well?
No, I'm doing gross. So if
Okay.
we did, I don't know, 100 services, then I would put rep profit at 3,000 and owner's profit at 2,200. Just something you can track on there.
Sure.
The more stuff you want to add to this, the better. It just needs to be doable. And so then we're sitting down every night, before I'm going to bed, before I'm making the decisions on what meetings we're going to run tomorrow, what impact we're running tomorrow, I'm going through and I'm looking at this, and this is the real analysis of the business. Does it make sense? Questions? No? Choose?
Choose.
Okay. All right, then real quick, we're going to go through weekly schedule and daily schedule, and then we're out of here. So, weekly schedule. The things that I want to do once a week, I want to make sure that I don't miss once a week. Sundays, make sure you're still calling your outside, anybody that you have first generation. If you have outside deals, you should call them. No, anybody that you have first generation, and remember that we tell our leaders they should be calling their guys on Sundays and setting up goals. Well, if you have people first generation, you got to remember to do that too. Okay. Really, what you should do as well is anybody that's important in your business, any of your crew managers, that sort of thing. Give them a call, ask them what their plan is. You can go through with them what their phone calls are going to be. I know when I was studying with Justin, that's what we would do on Sunday. Before I started making all my phone calls to my leaders, we'd sit down and say, okay, what's his situation? What should the phone call be about? What's his situation? What goals should we be looking at there? So that's one. Again, same thing. If I have first generation people without a leader, I want to do once a week team breakfast with them because it's not fair for them to miss out on that experience or learning how to do that. First, I want to do it with them, and then very, very quickly, I want to be teaching them how to do it. Okay, so that's for first generation people. Once a week, I want to sit down with my admin and just go through how things are going. What we see a lot of times is initially an owner will put in a lot of effort into getting their admin trained, and we're going to go through, that's one of our topics tomorrow, how to train an admin. We'll do a whole lot of effort to get them going, but then once they get good or acceptable, they just kind of exist and they never really get any attention, and that's when you're going to run into situations where your admin becomes demotivated. And you got to remember the program they're in is not nearly as appealing as the program that we're in, right? They're not going to get promoted to something in 6 months in most cases. They're not going to be able to make $5 grand a week or $2 grand a week in almost all cases. They don't have the type of progression that we offer the reps in the field. So all the other things are going to become way, way, way more important, right? So just how much time do they get with their boss? Going over what are they getting better at? You know, you've got to replace career progress with, hey, you know, a sit down and what can we improve, and here's what you've gotten really good at, and high five and juice by you and you hit your target, all those things. That should really be going on every day, but once a week I want to sit down, I want to go through this. Okay, let's look at what we had this week. What did you enjoy about this week? What did you not enjoy about this week? What do you think we need to improve? Okay, great, we hit our target or we didn't hit our target. Another thing I've been doing a lot recently is any bonuses that I have for the guys, like, you know, high roller, we're going to go out to a hockey game or anything like that. Maybe not all of them, but definitely some of them. Bring your admin for that, because again, that's just a perk. I mean, for the guy, that's super cool and super exciting, but in relationship to his career, it's kind of like a small thing. Do you know what I mean? But for her, in relationship to her career, that's a huge thing. Because how many people at their normal job ever get to go out with a boss? Or have the boss take them out to dinner. Or have the boss take them out to a hockey game. That never happens. Also, with my team nights as well, I want to get my admin involved there. I want her to bring her boyfriend, or if it's me, I want him to bring his girlfriend. And I want to make sure I'm buying their drinks that night. Because again, that's a small thing maybe for a rep, but that's a huge thing. You know, if you think about the last job that you had before this, like how many times did your boss ever like take you out and buy you a drink? And if he had, like how much of an impact, you know, would that have been? You know, the two admins that we just hired, try to make a point to do that in the first 3 days, and both of them ended up, you know, commenting either to me or to one of the other admins, like, oh man, this is crazy, like I've only been here 2 days and the boss is out, you know, has bought me beers and took me to dinner. What amazing, amazing job. Cheers?
Cheers.
All right, admins. Once a week opportunity meeting, we already covered that. Once a week you want to do a leaders meeting with just your leaders. I like to do that early in the week, so you can set the agenda for the week, go through what we're going to learn. But I need one-time leaders meeting. I've seen Rosenberg does one night a week where it's called Leaders with Leaders. So if you're a leader with a leader on your team or more, then you get your own night, and that's to kind of build greed, because they go do fun stuff, and you know that's a meeting that you're not. That's a meeting that your leaders be aspiring to get into. One time a week we do team night. We want to announce that every day. The goal of team night is that they bring the people that they're most influenced by at home. That's the goal. Once a week I want to remember to post a bulletin.
In the office so you can see it.
In the office so everybody can see it. Yeah, the bulletin, so the guys can see where they rank, you know, did they make the top 10 list, who are they competing with. Again, that's one of those things that you can be good at for a while, but then kind of forget, and then you look on the wall, and that's the bulletin from a month ago, and nobody was really competing to get there. Once a week, I want to go through this with myself, or preferably with my coach, but for sure, at least with myself, where I look at the entire week, and I say, okay, as a week, and I'll tally up everything, totals. So, okay, total this week, did we have 100 prelims show? Total this week, what was my retention? Total this week, how many promotions did we have? Because this is really a breakdown of, it's a analysis of my business, and I'm not going to improve if I don't know what the problems are. For me, I do 6 to 7 nights a week. Drinks with somebody, if you want to go fast. That's where the business is built. I've never seen anybody do well in the business ever. That wasn't out for a large percentage of their week. You know, socializing, teaching, meeting with guys. That's the job. That's the business. That's the game. That's where things happen. It's not necessarily during the day. Okay. Anybody that I've ever seen grow super fast, it was 7 nights a week for as long as they wanted to go really, really fast, because there's just so much happening. Cool. Another thing you can do once a week, I like to do once a week, is just drinks with the new guys. No leaders, or maybe sometimes I'll let the leader come. So if I have 4 new guys, but I have 10 leaders, well then that's again another time where those 4 leaders are kind of gonna get rewarded, and the other leaders just saying, shit, I need to start some people. But every once in a while, for sure, I like to just have the new guys over, you know, whether it's at my house for beers or out at the bar or whatever, because I'm gonna get a lot. That's gonna be the most honest picture of what's actually going on. Do you know what I mean? Those are the times where I can say, cool, so who's helped you out the most? You've been here 4 days. Who do you think the best person in the office is? Who's not really helped? Anybody been a distraction or anything like that? And the new guys don't know what's right or wrong. They're not totally full of shit like leaders, right? So they'll tell you, oh man, well this person helped. And what you'll find a lot of times is the guy that you thought was just average ends up being one of the more influential people that says, oh yeah, no, Steph was really, really there helping me out doing tons. And vice versa. You can find out that, you know, the guy you thought was your top guy, you know, hasn't really been that positive in the field. So I like new guys, plus new guys are just exciting. All right, last thing, any questions about any of those we need to be going every week?
When you said 7 nights a week with drinks with someone, when you're picking individuals, do you have like a few favourites that it's going to be like 3 or 4 times with that particular person, or is it someone different every day?
That's a good question. I do have favorites. I definitely have favorites, but they do change on a daily basis because I want to be rewarding the right pick. Okay, my favorites are based on if it's leaders, for sure, just pitch pace attitude. Who's working their balls off? Who's in early? Who's leaving late? Who's ringing the bell? You know, if someone says, "Hey, can I have a sit down?" Unless it's something I think that's serious and I need to address, maybe you know. Something weird's going on, but just, hey, can I have a sit down? Did you ring the bell today? No? Okay, fuck off, ring the bell, and then, you know, we'll have a sit down. Or, hey, ring the bell for 3 days, or, hey, qualify for leadership this week, which you haven't done since you got promoted leadership. I want to make them earn for that. So if I'm sitting down with a leader, it's got to be somebody who, either I need to have some sort of critical conversation with them, or they're doing the right things, therefore they're getting rewarded with the time. Because again, who are going to be the people that build teams? Who are going to be the people that get promoted? Who are going to be the people that run offices? It's the guys that are trying the hardest, have the best attitude, that ask most questions. That's who gets promoted. It's an objective game. So we're going to be sitting down with them. With the new guys, it's not necessarily and largely not based on sales. And I know I messed this up a lot in my first office, where you know a guy would come in and he would seem pretty with it, pretty together. But if he didn't pick up the sales really quick, I didn't necessarily pay a lot of attention to him. But moreover was the guys that would come in and just start banging the sales away, I would be spending a ton of time with them. And I remember Justin sitting down with me and saying, look, like just because a guy out of the bat, you know, out of the gate is really good at sales, like don't confuse that for the guy that's like, don't confuse that for meaning that he's going to be your next person. Don't confuse that for even meaning that he's working hard. Because in a lot of cases, maybe he just did sales before, or he's really, you know, just kind of. People come in, a lot of times they're either, you know, gifted at the sales or gifted at recruiting. Very rarely both, but don't confuse that. So what am I looking for in a new guys? One is whoever gets me motivated. You know, I can't stand hanging out with people that don't motivate me, and so it's really fun part of our business. You don't have to do that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So I want to protect my attitude too. So who am I going out with? I'm going out with the guys that motivate me. And for me, that's usually 80% of the time, 70% of the time. That's not a leader. It's a newer guy, and so I'm just looking for potential. Hey, does this guy, again, is he working hard? Is he showing up on time? Does he seem into it? Do I think he has potential to become, you know, an owner? That's who I want to be going out with. The real B or C or D guy, I'm just gonna kind of let him exist, and until he, you know, really goes out of his way to show something different. You know, high five, hey, great, have a great time. You know, come to team night, we'll hang out then, whatever, we'll bowl. But for my one-on-one time, I only have a certain number of hours in the week, and I want to make sure I'm investing that with somebody who I think has a high probability for success. What was your question?
No, it's okay, you just nailed it.
Just got it? See how I did that?
I was just sorry. I was thinking, is it more effective to? I'm going to be real.
Sure.
It's more difficult, I find, since I've been on a res campaign, to spend more time with my guys. Whereas when on events, I spent a lot more time with them, like on a daily basis. Like we go for a beer, or just go and grab a sandwich together, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then since we're not done out the office till like 10:30 here, maybe whatever, then going for a drink, a lot of them aren't getting home till 2 in the morning, sort of thing. And it's not something I can. Do you change your schedule? I mean, to be more.
Well, I mean, I run offices on both, and I think that you can do it both ways. I mean, the majority of my career is on res until now, actually. It's not totally different. I mean, if you're on B2B, you start early, right? You start super early. You know, the guys get off work at what 6, 7 o'clock or whatever. You can go grab a beer with them right away. But they got to be in bed like at an earlier hour too. Do you know what I mean? Well, if you're not starting until 10, you know, what time does B2B start here?
No, we're res. Oh,
Everybody's resting?
B2B start at the same time as us, 9.
What's the early start time here?
9 o'clock.
9 first.
9? Okay. All right. Well, I know Matt's B2B guys. They start like 7 or 6 sometimes, right? So that guy needs to be in bed by like 10 or something, right? But if I'm not starting until 9 or 10, well, that guy can easily not get home till midnight, 1 o'clock. That's not a big deal. Do you know what I mean? But what I will say is you gotta make sure that your setup process is quick, and happens fast, and the night time, like, so when the night happens, like, I have an agenda for that night, right? So I know before setups happen who I want to sit down with, where we're going, what we're doing, and my goal is to get to that as soon as possible, right? So I want to get atmosphere in, out, done. Let's do a bell party. Get the new guys out. Get the retrains out. Get the distributors out. Get the leaders out, and then we're going to the bar. So I got to make sure that that's urgent, because you can all what probably is happening there. What I've seen before is we end up spending 3 hours at the office just fucking around. A little bit of fucking around is good, but rather than kick around the football in atmosphere, I'd rather be at the bar sitting with a guy, listening to a story, getting to know who he is, where he's from, what he's doing, or teaching a leader how to interview or how to be a crew manager, that sort of thing. Does it make sense? So I think it's just getting your night organized really quickly, but you know, if he's not going to be here till 10 and he doesn't get home till 1, he still sleep 8 hours. Like, that's not a big deal, I think. Is it? No?
Just no, I purely think from a sleeping and outside negatives, and I wonder, like, is there some way you combat that? And then,
I mean, I'm not going to keep a guy out forever, you know, multiple times in a row until he's a little bit later in the game. So, so if I have a retrain, I'm not going to take him out till 1 in the morning. First 4 days, like he's already adjusting to the hours. You know what I mean? No, when Josh Peace was a retrain, I remember we went out. I was like, oh, I like this guy. He's gonna be good. So I'm like, all right, cool. You're coming with me. No, I don't care about we're going to the bar. You know? And so we did that. And after like 3 nights, I'm like, all right, you ready? And he's like, dude, I need to sleep. Like an hour and a half training at home. You're killing me. So I don't want to end up in that situation where I'm burning the guy out. But so there's a balance there. But I have, as the owner, plenty of people I get sit downs with every single night. So there shouldn't be a day that I don't have somebody to hang with. Cool?
Cool.
All right, so last thing is just daily schedule of a manager. This is how Justin taught it to me. Again, the people that I've seen be really successful or go fast or both. This is in general how it goes. First off, to have all the preparations done the night before. The general rule is that when the guys are here in the office, I'm with the guys. And from the moment that my leaders meeting, so I have my leaders meeting start, okay? I have an agenda for that. I'm teaching there. And then from the moment that leaders meeting's over to the moment that the guys go to the field, my goal is one thing only, and that's to raise the average. That's it. If I'm on something like Xfinity, it's to raise the average and to raise the installation rate as well. So what do I got to do? I've got, however many minutes to impact these guys to the point that they're going to make more money today than they did yesterday. So I don't want to be doing any administration with the exception of filling out a guy's first day paperwork. I might sit down with them and do that. If I have 5 new guys that start and they're a sharp looking group, I'll sit down and I'll do all the first day paperwork, and I might take a little bit more time to go through things because I don't want anybody else to do that. Okay? But my primary goal is to raise the average, raise the amount of money people are making. So we have a leaders meeting. Immediately from there, most offices in a campaign just going to go right into atmosphere. When atmosphere is going, nobody leaves atmosphere. We stay in atmosphere, but I'm in atmosphere. You look at owners that are struggling 9 times out of 10. When you go to visit their office, they're just not in atmosphere, right? So they went through the field. You went through the field, you spent all this time becoming good at it, you spent all this time becoming amazing in atmosphere, and then you stop doing atmosphere. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Do you know what I mean? And as the owner, this time is even more important. You know, when you were a leader, you had all day with your guys to impact them, to keep their attitude up, to get them to work harder, to teach them how to do sales. You had from them all day long. Well, now you're an owner. You only got a couple hours there in the morning. You've got to fit everything into those hours. So I'm in atmosphere. I'm running around. I'm high-fiving. I'm creating, you know, a feel-good situation. And for me, I always have my sheet there that's got my car rides on it. Okay, and I've got my bubble chart as well. And I'm taking roll call. Going through, okay, what conversations do I need to have? If you can have those conversations in atmosphere, that's ideal. You know, pull a guy over in the corner, hey, what happened, da 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 da. If not, maybe I step outside really quickly. But I want to be doing atmosphere stuff, teaching people sales, working with them, high-fiving, pitch practicing, looking for ways that I can improve my leaders, looking for mistakes that they're making, looking for anything that's going wrong, anything that I can possibly improve. During atmosphere. All you guys got amazing at the sales, otherwise you wouldn't be in this room. Continue to teach that. It's your biggest asset there. So we have the impact. During the impact, I'm watching the impact. I'm trying to see how we can get it better. I'm trying to see if that guy running the impact did anything yesterday or talking about anything that I didn't know about or that we could replicate out or duplicate out to the whole group. Morning meeting, announcements. Morning meeting. After the morning meeting, I want to have a leaders meeting right after the morning meeting, and I want to hit the leaders on something there. The majority of the time, this is something not negative, but it's something constructive. So right before the guys are going to go out to the field, I want to kind of punch them in the stomach about something. So hey, atmosphere is great, everything's juicy, we're super excited, but then we come in and the leaders and say, what the fuck was going on, man? I had to fucking break up twice. I had to break up distributors talking to each other. No leaders were fucking there. What the fuck? Or, guys, the numbers yesterday were bullshit. If we don't fix them today, there will be no more recruitment for the next few days. Whatever. I want to hit them on something that's going to give them a little extra push then, okay? When the morning meeting ends, I want to have just a gigantic amount of emergency to get all this shit done and get these guys out of there. Just get them out. They're not making any money now, and they're not being impacted. So the shorter amount of time that happens between the impact of the morning meeting and then getting filled, the better. Set up my observations, get everybody out to the field. Also, probably once a week to keep your guys honest, peek around the corner and see what they're doing once you get everybody out to the field. Okay, so after you set up your last observation, send them out to the field. You know, normally you go to your office and start the day's work or whatever. Instead, go hide around, peek around the side of the corner, see how long it's taking guys to get in their cars. See what kind of conversations are happening out in the parking lot while people are doing the CV breakdown. Go to the nearest gas station or the nearest McDonald's or whatever and just park your car and watch and see how many of your cars are coming in there and having breakfast before they go to the field or stopping on the way to the field to get gas or all that shit. Cool? You want, you know, Justin talked about it a little, you want people to think that at any moment you might be watching. So I go out and visit the stands, I go to the stores, I never tell anybody I'm coming. If I'm going to visit outside, I never tell them I'm going to come. I want everybody to think that at any moment we might show up. And I want to know what people do when they think that nobody else is looking. Okay. From the time that, minus about half an hour, which I'm going to go over in a minute, from the time that the guys leave for the field to the time that the guys get back from the field, I am recruiting. Or I'm figuring out why the fuck am I not recruiting. That's it. My job, the leader's job, is to ring the bell, close the observation, and retrain guys to leadership. My job is to make sure that every leader has a day of observation every single day, or at least every leader that rang the bell has a day of observation every single day. If there's a day that goes by that I have a leader that rang the bell that doesn't get an observation, that just means I'm failing. And even if I'm making money, even if things are great, even if we have 40 guys, if I'm sending guys into the field that did their job yesterday but don't have the opportunity to grow their business, I'm fucking people over. So I'm recruiting this whole time. What I typically do, what I learned from Jesse, is the first thing when the guys leave. First thing, I want to go talk to the admin. Hey, how are things going? Any feedback from today so far? What's it look like for tomorrow? Give her a high five. Set up goals for her for the day. Make sure that she's focused. Okay. Then I want to go in my room. Go in our room. I'm going to turn off my phone. I have 15, 20 minutes. Jesse calls it Zen time. This helped me out so much. you know, and these days I'm really organized about it. I have, you know, a sheet. It's got, you know, here's my call schedule for the week. Here's urgent things to do, second urgent things to do, last urgent things to do. But when I was a rookie, he just said, look, just take a piece of paper, you know, and you got 3 columns. And you put on your music, whatever. This is where I gotta, you know, focus and relax a minute before the day gets going and take a look at what I want to accomplish and what I'm going to do. I don't want to have days where I'm just putting out fires all day long that I'm never really on the offense. So what's in the 3 categories? First things are things I have to do today that just absolutely have to get done today. Has to be done today. So whether that's administration, whether that's whatever it is, I cannot leave until these things are done. And make sure that if you put them in that list that you're not going to sleep until they get done. Okay? So first list, things have to get done today in the office. Okay? Second list, things that have to get done today outside of the office. Maybe that's I got to go visit a store manager. Maybe that's I got to go book a conference room. Maybe it's even a personal thing. I got to pick up my dry cleaning or whatever. And I'm putting the times by it. But again, these are things that I absolutely have to fucking do today. Okay? And I'm not going to leave every day until all this is done. Okay? And then the third column is if I get that shit done, what are some other priorities that I can then go on to? There shouldn't be a dead moment in your day. From when if you're doing this business right, like there's no dead moments. It's from the moment that you wake up to the moment you go to bed. Like this shit's fucking. I mean, it's going. And if you get to the point where at the end of the day you're looking at yourself and saying, holy shit, like I don't even know how many impacts I fucked up or I got right because there were just so many. You're definitely going fast at that point. So this is, you know, just the time that I have to relax, take a look at it. Okay, I get focused. This is what I'm going to do. I've got an agenda now. Turn the phone back on, and let's start going. Okay. From now after Zen time all the way up to I say a half an hour or maybe an hour if you've got a ton of recruitment before the guys get back. All I'm doing is doing preliminary interviews or figuring out why I'm not doing preliminary interviews. So I'm doing